Where would we be without phones?
Dave, can I just ask Christina what their last name is? For the record.
So you can either unmute and say, or you can chat it to us.
Oh, that's Burns.
Thank you.
There you
Thanks,
go.
Christina.
I don't know if it's Christina or Brian, but it's
No,
one of the Burns.
Brian's on a separate one. That's why it threw me off.
Yeah, I can't see anything here. I can't see anything. I'm having some serious problems here on my computer. Okay. I'll try one more time to get on my computer. Nope, it is not liking that. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about tonight is the OCAC. I apologize for them coming early and not realizing that they were going to be here at 6:30. The first issue that I wanted to discuss was the letter from the American Legion that we received that'll be in correspondence this month to relocate the pollinator garden onto the side of the building. And I just wanted to make sure that the OCAC board got that, the council got that, and how we want to approach that.
Yeah, we did, and Jack has been leading the pollinator garden effort, and he said he was going to talk to the person in charge at the Legion Hall and either try to negotiate and beg and plead leaving it where it is, or capitulate and move it to the side, which would be a lot of work. We'd have to rototill it, and dig it up. So Jack is handling that. I think do you know that he had asked me for the name of the person to deal with, and I didn't know. Do you know the name of the person?
So let me set the record straight here. Okay. One, Jack's not a member officially of the Conservation Advisory Council. Two, the town, not the Olive Conservation Council, has a lease with the American Legion. And the lease, very straightforwardly states that the leasee shall maintain the grounds in a sightly manner. And in fact, there's a 1952 deed restriction on the American Legion property that requires that the American Legion shall dedicate and maintain said property as a memorial to the veterans of the great wars of the town of Olive. In a sensitive issue where the veterans from the American Legion are asking you to remove the garden, this is not, to me, a negotiated stance. This is, let's remove the garden, guys. We have a lease on this building that we need to not put in jeopardy. So that's my position. Does anybody on the board want to respond to that? Or the OCAC?
Indeed, we did not maintain it the way we should have. But as a person, this feels like we're being punished for not maintaining it for a couple of months.
No, you're facing the consequences of not. This has been something that has not been a few months. This has been an ongoing issue that I personally, and I know other people have mentioned to you, to the OCAC, that the garden needs to be tended better. And it's never been tended. And the people who own the building and who do the other garden are not pleased with the appearance, especially since we had a voting day there. They're not happy to be represented this way. They want it moved. So I say move.
I accept consequences, but it's been there for 4 years, and we did maintain it for a while, and we let it go. But just let that stand. We will either move it or we'll just abandon it.
Okay.
I'm not sure what we'll make a decision on what we want to do.
Okay, I'm just saying it's going to move or abandon. That's my position on it. I don't know what the other board thinks. Anybody want to pipe in here, please?
Right. That position sounds fine to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think a
completely
pollinator
agree.
garden tends to be a little messy looking. It's probably not the best place for it.
Yeah.
Necessarily.
The one at the library is not messy looking.
It can be. There's times. It's
All
definitely,
relative.
Yeah, I mean, there's an aesthetic to it, definitely, that, I get. It's not the most attractive looking garden, and it serves a purpose greater than or different than aesthetics. But regardless, it's either got to be moved or loosed. So I wanted to make that clear. And it's not appropriate to have Jack going out and representing the town to a landlord. It just doesn't make sense, guys.
Okay, one of us will deal with him. Do you know who the person is?
No, you're gonna deal with the town, and we're gonna work with you to have it removed or
So
not. I don't want to bring the landlord into the conversation. It's not his responsibility or his burden to do that.
We'll make a decision and get back to you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Let me go on to my other. Okay, Matt, you have the NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities Program.
I do.
And it looks like we have a December 1st deadline to claim the action grant,
That's right.
which is pretty exciting. I hope we get that. I had a question about the letter that you sent. I had a question about the grant money, what you're going to use it
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know if you could explain that, because I didn't know what ASHRAE studies are.
ASHRAE is American Society of Heating and Refrigeration Architects or something like that. Those are the
Okay.
specific consultants that need to come in to do the studies on these buildings. And what they do is they're setting a benchmarking baseline so that they can see how much energy they burn, what the electricity usage is, and how to improve all those things. That's what the study says, and that's what the study makes recommendations on. So we're going to get 2 of those ASHRAE studies done, and he's also going to do a lighting audit for Grant Avery Park, because that electric bill is substantial. So once we get that information in hand, I'll be able to submit that further. But yeah, that's what we're going to use that for, the ASHRAE studies and the a lighting audit. The rest of the stuff is pretty straightforward, creating a mailing that we've spoken about, a postcard mailer to offer all town residents a free energy audit. And if they qualify, funding to put those recommendations into place.
Great. And then there was creating literature for the OCAC for handouts. Is that the same thing as the printing?
Yeah, well, so there's 2 different things. So the first thing we're going to do is the studies. The second thing is creating the mailer to mail out to with the Cornell Cooperative Extension to mail out to all residents, offering them that program. Then whatever money we have left over, which should be around $1,200, we're going to create literature for handouts, for signage, for tabling, for things like Olive Day, so people know who the AC is, what we do, and how we are helping all the residents in the town combat climate change.
Great. Okay.
So all I need from the town is a sign off on that letter of commitment. Once I get that, then I can submit and we're good to go. Everything else is ready.
Right. I don't have a problem with the letter of commitment. I don't know if any of the board has looked at that, if they have any comments on it.
I'm fine with it.
So am I.
The one thing I want to, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the one thing I want to make sure everybody's clear on, I don't think the OCAC has any authority to spend money. So whatever, if we get this grant, whatever money getting spent has to go through the town board in some form or fashion.
Oh, definitely. The money goes into the town coffers. and then you tell me how to do it. I will get these proposals to you. You can sign them. I can sign them, whatever you want. And we'll take it from there. But yes, we have no way to get income or to expect to spend income.
Right, okay.
Yeah, the other thing that you need to do is, if we are awarded this money, which from my looking at it appears to be a grant rather than a reimbursable grant.
Yep.
Like you say, just it's money right into us. So we'll need to do an accounting of that. We'll need to set up a special kind of a thing with that with the new bookkeeper. And before we go out for any kind of audits, I have two questions on that. One, I need to make sure that you follow that the solicitation for those services needs to go through the procurement policy of the town. And that needs to, what I would suggest is you maybe make some recommendations and we can solicit the RFPs and accept them. And the other question I had about it was on this whole energy audit thing, it seemed like you had been, the OCAC, I say, has been in the town, looking at the energy records a few years ago. So don't we have that baseline?
We do not.
That's the overall usage, not the, where's the air leakage, what is actually in the building as far as HVAC and things like that that can be improved.
Right.
We
What's
have
the
specific
lighting?
recommendation on all those individual energy items. We just did one at the library.
And they'll tell you if you have insulation or you don't have insulation. Do you have the right kind of insulation? Are the windows good? Any of these things. Do you have weather stripping around the doors? This is the type of audit they'll give you these recommendations on, and you can
Recording in progress.
act accordingly.
I'm going to go off my phone.
Get rid of the
I think.
echo.
Now you're on mute. Mute.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
No, that's so much better. I'm standing here with my
He's
phone
back.
trying to hand hold it. Okay. Well, that makes a lot more sense. So it's an in-depth of each building. And have
Yeah.
you chosen what buildings you want to do this on?
Well, right. So far, I have the courthouse and police station. And then, it was a little confusing. Obviously, this is up for discussion. The next highest electric bill that I have here is for the American Legion Hall on Mountain Road.
Isn't that
Now,
one?
yeah. Now, you told me the other day, I just learned for the first time that we don't own that building. But we do pay all the bills on it and we lease. So
Yeah.
I think if we do the ASHRAE study there, that will end up giving us the information we need to lower that electric bill one way or the other.
Wow. I'm surprised that building has that much use because it's not used. I wonder if there's something running that we don't know about.
It's probably heating. I don't think that building's very well insulated.
But that building has I believe, an oil burner in it. I don't think it's heated by. Scott, do you remember that when we did? I'm sorry, Scott. Do you remember when we did the insulation on that? What the heat was in that building?
It's an oil burner. We did the insulation, I want to say 6 years ago, and we did pretty much the whole meeting space has insulation above it now. So
Right.
there could be the expense of running that heating system over the winter, but there's no air in there in the summer. So,
I mean, there are air conditioners that are on as needed basis.
Looking at the bills and looking. Right.
I'd like to look a little closer at that before we decide that building is the building, because
sure.
the town
We have-
office is heated with electric heat, and it would
Yep.
surprise me that office doesn't use more than the American Legion. So something's off there.
That's possible. I'm just going off the electric bills that I got from Rebecca a while back. And, the two highest bills, believe it or not, the two highest bills are the building at Bostock Road, the lights at Grant Avery Park, and then the American Legion Hall.
There might be an error on the, maybe there's an error on that. Does it have the address on it?
Yeah.
I'll double check that.
So anyway, we can decide that, but like you said, we're going to send this out for, you want to get official RFPs and get bids on these energy audits so that we can just decide which buildings we're going to do together and take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, so you think this is a couple $1,000 to do the energy audits? So
$1,000 a building, yeah.
1,000 a building? Yeah, so like if we get two vendors and we get two requests, that's what I would do. So if you want to make some recommendations on the vendors, I can do that.
Okay.
We have to follow our procurement policy on these things.
That's fine.
Matt, is there any accountability back to NYSERDA on this $5,000 once you get it?
They are approving. I'm giving them details as to what we're doing. So I'm telling. I've sent over the exact prices on the items I have. I don't think they're going to come back to us any further. I think they are approving the $5,000, and that's that.
Okay.
What we were told going into the program is that it was yet to sort of earmark it, but that it's basically just our money.
Right.
And but this grant is different than getting bronze status, right?
Yes, that's a different thing entirely. This helps us get towards the bronze status, but the grant has not tied into that.
So I have an older thing from OCAC that was in my files where we looked at all the points, and we thought this has got to be a year old because it says June 2nd deadline. That it looked like we had 131 points. And I remember bringing this up before, but I guess there were some that were disqualified or something.
Yes and no. I'm now up to 152 points, but as it turns out, you have to have 3 priority bronze items that we only have 2 of. So one of the ones that the easiest one to get is an ASHRAE study on 1 or 2 buildings.
I got you. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to clarify.
Third leg of this stool. Like I said, I think I'm up to 152 points, and yes, I'm sure we're going to get a bunch shot down for whatever reason.
Gotcha.
Okay. So irrespective,
that's a little confusing, that part.
It is definitely confusing.
Yeah.
Yes, navigating this NYSERDA bureaucracy is tricky, but I think we've gotten this far. I think we are actually getting pretty close here. So if I can get that letter of commitment emailed to me on town letterhead with your signature this week, then I can just submit it and send it in and, cross our fingers. Then I can start bothering those people to verify and to send us our check.
Does anybody on the town board have any comments? Or we're all good with that, right?
Yes.
All for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Great, thanks.
Simon has his hand up. Did he still want to say something?
Jim, I just wanted to tell you that I actually did the audit, not the audit, but the energy allocation, the electric energy from the last bills, which I sent to you about a week ago. So you've actually got all that summary by building for the last year.
Yeah, I've got a couple from the ones that I solicited too. They sent me them as well. You can actually go to the ESCO and ask them to do it for you.
Right. Well, it was pretty easy to do because we had that last electric bill. So the largest user is, in fact, the town court building. Second largest user is the town offices. And then quite a long way behind is the Legion Hall. So it's possible that the bill that Matt was looking at was one particular month, but I analyzed it for the whole year, and you've got that analysis.
Okay, great.
I'm happy to do the courthouse and the town office. That's no problem.
Yeah, so we just want to make sure that we get our numbers aligned correctly. So we're looking at the the same data on that.
Sure.
It's possible the town office had a pretty detailed audit done as part of the work that was done to replace the roof and put the solar on, all that other good stuff. So we may actually
I
have that
wouldn't
data.
bet on that.
Yeah. But I'm assuming by NYSERDA wants the ASHRAE study, particularly, not just any study, but the ASHRAE study.
Absolutely. They're very specific.
That's what I thought. Okay.
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 And
Great.
on that same line, we did the solar campaign to get to become eligible for this $5,000 grant.
Yep.
And it was relatively successful. And question I had in this is, we have the solar on the town office, but is the other meters eligible for that solar campaign? The town meters?
My impression is that all the town meters, any meter in the town of Olive is would qualify to go into the community solar.
Except
And
for
we would have
demand
to
meter.
choose what's that?
Except for the demand meter, like the lights at Grand Avery.
Fine.
Those can't.
But yes.
Generally,
and we
any.
could-
Matt, the answer
Go
is
ahead.
generally any, but if the usage is too small, the community solar guys don't want to do it. So and the town office doesn't qualify at the moment because of the solar on the roof. But the logical ones that would make sense would be the town court and the American Legion. All
highway.
the rest of them below that are way very small. The recycling
highway
center.
small?
It doesn't have a separate account that's at least not on the electric bill.
Okay.
So it's probably on the town office's account. I mean, the recycling center has something like 2,300 kilowatt hours per year. So that's pretty small. So the ones that would make sense to do would be the town court and the American Legion.
And we don't know what that threshold of being too small is, do we?
I think it's about 100 kilowatt hours a month, but what we're going to need to get some quotes anyway, whether we use the folks who are doing the Ulster County campaign, which would be Solstice, Power Market, and I forget who the third one was, or whether we go out and get our own. I mean, no matter what, everyone is providing a 10% discount on the accounts they're willing to do. So it's the economics are going to be the same for the town, whatever way it goes.
Right.
But it definitely makes sense to do.
Simon, when we signed up for the solar, all the residents, everyone got $100. You think the town would be eligible for $100 from the vendors?
Is that program still open?
I'm not sure why not.
Well, that is a question that was my next question on the solar campaign. Does it time out? Is it something that's still open that the town should be promoting to the OCAC continuously?
I don't have an answer to that.
No,
I mean,
no, it was timed out. There was it was open for 3 months, and we had 30 or 31 signups, and the campaign, as promoted, was over. We can continue to promote people to sign up for community solar, but we won't get any rewards or benefits as a town. Just the individuals will.
So to clarify, the solar campaign is still open to the public and open to the town to join. The incentives for the grant program are over.
Correct.
right.
Right. Okay. We don't know about the individual incentives for individual homeowners, whether that exists or not.
Right.
But that would be something, when we talk about literature and promotion and things, these are the things on these programs that I would hope that we follow through on and continue on, and that if we're going to promote things that we have, it's ongoing. It's not just a splash in the water and we did it and we're done, that it continues. And from the OCC, I'd like to see that, moving forward.
Okay.
No, that's, getting people to sign up for community solar is the best way for the town to reduce its carbon footprint. second only to insulating all the homes. But we can certainly do that. And maybe even look at more than, now that the sponsors are not running a program, we can look at other community solar vendors as well. But we'll put this on our agenda to continue looking at.
Sure, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I'm always, looking at OCC and a lot of you know that I get frustrated with the OCAC. And some of the times I get frustrated is because we start things and we don't finish them. Pollinator Garden is a good example of the commitment made 5 years ago or whenever we put that thing in to maintain it, and it hasn't been properly addressed. But, when I look at this program, it sounds great, but let's continue it and let's stay with it. I have a problem sometimes with the scale of and scope of your reach, is that it's very ambitious, but to the expense sometime of not maintaining continuity on the programs that we like and we're doing. So I hope you guys could find a way to be able to right size yourself as we move forward, because I think it's important. I think sometimes you hurt yourself, which brings me right into the next one, which is solar mapping. And I need to have an explanation of this because, again, I got contacted by someone who I never heard of, telling me they're a member of the OCAC or working with the OCAC to do solar mapping and asking them for data to send to them so they can do this. And I'm like, that is a big, big discussion for the town board on whether we want to pursue that or not. And we have had no information on it at all from you guys. So maybe you want to address that, Dan.
Sure. So for starters, that note was sent by our newest recruit, who's not a member, someone who we met at Olive Day named Simon Slow, and he, expressed interest in joining and in this project, which is being led by Scenic Hudson and the county and Clearwater to map potential solar array sites. So he has apologized profusely to me, and I believe I have to you. This was a political mistake. Two of those things he asked for don't exist, like an OSI or a comprehensive plan. This was a green rookie who was trying to be ambitious and way overstepped. He's a smart guy, and he realizes
that's not the problem.
Way
I get that. I accept all that. That's good. I get that. I'm just wondering where we are in this and what's the pursuit.
So
I know you guys are looking at it. I didn't hear you.
Yeah, so this is an educational program. Can you hear me? Yeah,
Yes,
this is an educational program being run primarily by Scenic Hudson and coordinated by Manager Green. It's a series of 5 training sessions, and Spencer and I have been attending them, primarily since, as he just said, community solar is the future of reducing our carbon footprint. And community solar means that there needs to be community solar sites throughout the Hudson Valley. So there's towns literally from from Yonkers to Albany that are participating in this workshop. It's a purely educational experience. It doesn't commit our town to doing anything other than for Spencer and I, and then eventually the OCAC, to learn about how to properly site solar arrays, since there needs to be more than 3 in the Hudson Valley if we're going to meet the state goals of in 2030. So we've attended 2 of the workshops. We've learned a bunch of things like, don't put them on wetlands and don't put them in forests and don't put them on agricultural lands. Make sure you can get them connected, things we've already touched on. And Spencer and I are in a learning mode. We're certainly way, way far away from wanting to put a site in the town of Olive, although that may be something we'll want to look at next year or the year after.
My question is in this educational process, are you creating mapping for Scenic Hudson?
Creating mapping for what?
for Scenic Hudson?
No, no.
Okay, so that's different.
The group of 15 people or 18 people who are participating, we have a a Google Docs site, and we've put in our natural resources inventory because that's the only document we have. And no, but we're not creating mapping for anyone else. We're not creating mapping for ourselves yet. We're learning about how to use mapping,
Okay.
including the maps that were included in the NRI, to appropriately site solar arrays if we decide to propose that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it opens up a big conversation about land use in the town. And what I don't want to do is be participating in something, the OCAC to be participating in something that could suddenly say, oh, look, we got this information from the OCAC and Scenic Hudson that, there's a place in Sampsonville that would be a perfect site for a solar farm. And we're not there yet as a town board, in my opinion. We need to have that discussion because we have so many demands on our land use with New York City land acquisition program, with New York City flood buyout programs. We have all this land use that's being, taken from the town for other purposes for climate change. And that leaves us very little land. Plus, we're also in the middle of this crazy real estate market that is pushing the price of land through the roof. So the demand for open space and land, in addition to the real estate demand for it for development, there's also the demand for it for rural preservation. That's a big discussion that we need to have. And before we go into, focusing the efforts of the OCAC on learning how to map, I would much rather see that we're looking at the solar laws in different towns and how they're approaching this and get it from a zoning perspective as well. And we had started on that path a while ago, and I never heard the result of that.
Yeah, well, this is, we've been talking about solar zoning and, for 2 or 3 years now. And I see this as a component of that, this is about siting. There's also setbacks and fencing and height, et cetera. That for starters, one, it's a great benefit to be in a Zoom room with 15, 18 other towns, some of whom, are, already have have solar farms in their town, some of whom are involved in political discussions. Some towns are facing not in my backyard opposition. Some towns are facing, how do you integrate it with agriculture? So we're learning a lot just by being in the room with them. Second is that the towns are in complete control. Nobody will ever tell us you should do this there. That OCAC and the town board will, and I'd like us to be in complete alignment on what we want to do regarding solar. And indeed, that there may or may not be a future of a solar site in the town of Olive. We probably do have less open land than many other towns, but leave it at that. One, we want to be in complete alignment with the board. Two, and the towns, the Scenic Hudson has no power, not even a power of suggestion. This is sort of a classic. We are providing information and the towns will make decisions about what they want to do.
Okay. Thank you. That clarified that a lot. Any questions from the town board? Comments?
So at a meeting I think that I went to this summer with you guys, you laid out what your priorities are for the next year, for this year and next year, I think. How does this fit in those priorities?
One of our big priorities is sustainability and reducing the carbon footprint in the town of Olive.
I get that, but you laid out specific.
Yeah, this indeed came up. This appeared. Scenic Hudson started this program and said this is available, and we discussed it at a town board meeting and said if any of us would be interested in learning about solar mapping, then let's do that. So, and then Spencer came along. So Spencer and I are attending this as our own investment in learning. it was not on our original agenda of projects because this didn't exist at the beginning of the year when we put our projects together.
Just to add from a priority perspective, Vicky, we had the solar code as one of the items and we moved it down the priority list,
Right.
not one of the things. So Jim brought up that we'd started on this and we deliberately lowered the priority on that. But Jack and I have been working in the background to look at other town codes. Saugerties just recently amended its zoning code for that. So that will at some point step back up. And just to add to something Jim asked about, Scenic Hudson has actually done half of this mapping already. The maps that show land that would be good for solar are already out there. They exist. Scenic Hudson has published them, and solar developers are looking at them very carefully to see, based on those maps, where it would make sense to put solar. What has not been done is what was done on Long Island, which is to integrate where it would make sense to put solar with how the electric distribution grid could cater that to that solar. And that's something that has not yet been done and may not yet get done in the Hudson Valley, but it's essentially, it might be done on a town by town basis, which is part of the reason for this solar mapping education program, so that if some towns want to do it, they at least understand what's involved. But I will tell you that since the Scenic Hudson maps are out there, solar developers that I've heard of are looking at them very carefully and are focusing on towns which have not got solar codes in place, because then they wouldn't have
You're breaking up, Simon.
Just lost you on that, Simon.
Yeah. So,
developers are looking at towns that don't have
There you
solar
go.
codes and saying it's easier to develop in those towns because they don't have any restrictions on what the solar field might look like. So I think
So-
it's something we need to think about.
So I can tell you that from the perspective of our code enforcement officer, and I've discussed this with him about other issues, is that if it's not in the code, it's not allowed, it's not recognized. So there's a difference of opinion on that.
But the real question is whether the state can override that.
Right, right. So, what I'm getting at is I feel like going out, it's great that you guys are getting informed on that, but I feel like the real, train coming down the tracks from what Simon's saying is that we should have a solar code. And again, I look at the sizing and scope and scale of the OCAC and how many things you're trying to take on simultaneously. And is that something that should be more of a priority?
Well, why don't we discuss that with Vicky and come back to you with something that we all have a view on, and then you all can take a look and say that these are the current priorities. Are there other things that the town board thinks should be added to this?
Yeah, I mean, the priority can't be changed every time something new comes up from the county or the state, because something new comes up from the county and state every 3 months, and it's put us in this position where we're always scrambling to do what they propose. And I will say this till I turn blue in the face, that the priorities of the county and the state, while the overall goals might be the same as what the OCAC and the town of Olives are, but very often they have their interest and we have ours, and they're different. And that's what I'm trying to make a point here, is that we need to really focus on the town of Olive and what's important now to get done. In an overall picture, I look at, we made a grant we put in for a grant for a comprehensive plan. If by some luck we get that, then we're going to be looking at where's our open space inventory, where's our solar law, how do we integrate these things into a comprehensive plan? And that's why I keep pushing you toward this, is to focus on these items that are part of a bigger scope of planning.
Yeah, no, we're aware of the importance of an open space inventory, and none of us have any experience with it. We've seen a couple other towns. What we have learned is that all the other towns in the Hudson Valley, except one, have gotten grants by professional surveyors and engineers, to complete an open space inventory. And one of the reasons why we're pursuing the bronze certification is that that the consultants would cost in the neighborhood of $12,000 to work with us on an open space inventory. So that's one of our priorities. But given our level of knowledge and the availability of monies, we're sort of at a standstill. Yeah.
So
But-
if the focus is on getting the $5,000 grant for the NYSERDA, maybe the other focus should be on trying to get the $12,000 grants out there.
Right. And getting grants is brand new to us. None of us are professional grant seekers. So we're on a learning curve, and getting grants to do open space inventory is on our priority list. That said, what we're learning about mapping from the solar mapping is contributing to that it is using maps to identify land use potential, whether it's for solar or not.
All right.
I've got.
So yeah, why don't you discuss this at your next meeting and bring it back to us? Drew, you wanted to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's okay. I just wanted to ask Simon one quick question. What was the logic for lowering the priority on a proposed solar law?
Because Scenic Hudson hadn't at that time produced its map, which I think was published in March of this year. And therefore, and also the fact that after many conversations with
Oops, I think we lost.
We lost you again, Simon.
is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was only about a megawatt of capacity along the line that comes into Olive from Woodstock, and that therefore it was pretty unlikely that unless that line was beefed up, there could be any significant solar installations in the town.
Okay,
Right.
good. That makes good sense.
So let me ask a really dumb question about the mapping, Dan. If you're looking at this and you're saying these are good places for solar siting, and you're learning the criteria for them, and Scenic Hudson has the mapping, and Simon's saying solar developers are out there looking at the mapping, can this mapping not be used for the open space inventory?
We're hoping it can.
Okay.
Yeah, we're hoping this will be a contributing aspect of an open space inventory. But there is a lot more, and it goes to even smaller parcels than the solar mapping does. But the other thing about the mapping is, in the past 6 months, we've recognized that the community solar and solar array industry has been ramping up speed. A year ago, it wasn't as important and big and aggressive as it is now. So I'm going to propose at our next meeting is that we re-elevate the solar code, because solar developers might come after individual landowners, and if we don't have a solar code, we might have something we don't want. On the same thought process, we might, have something we do want if a developer approaches a landowner. But we need to develop our knowledge, and that's the reason why we're in the workshop.
So I'm a little confused. Simon said that we don't have a big enough line between Woodstock and Olive to be able to have a large solar array. Is that correct?
That's what I said, yeah, but that would
Losing you again.
Breaking up again.
We need a better line from Simon's house to us.
It's been like this the whole day, the whole day. But unfortunately, we have another Zoom conversation going on in the house, so there's nothing I can do about that. But Vicky, Central Hudson would have to upgrade the line for us to get more capacity off it,
Right.
or they would have to take the Ashokan hydro offline, which takes 4.7 megawatts out of the roughly 6 megawatt capacity on the line.
So what's the incentive for Central Hudson to beef up the line?
They get paid interconnection payments when people put solar arrays onto their network. They get more usage, so they get paid more. So I mean, it's the more they upgrade the distribution network, the more people can put car charging, other electric usages on the line, and on which they obviously get paid for providing that extra electrical energy.
So a lot depends on, if the lines don't exist now, if somebody came in and said, hey, the Fox Farm looks like a great place to put a big solar array. That might be the incentive for them to put it in anyway.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Again, I'm never sure who's leading what here, the horse
Right.
or the carriage, and it all comes down to we need a solar law.
And you probably saw that Governor Hochul announced that she was increasing the state's target from 6 gigawatts of solar, which has already been met, to 10 gigawatts. So as part of the CLCPA, there's going to be a significant extra likelihood of more distributed solar across the state with more incentives to make it happen.
Okay. Any other questions from the board on this topic? I'd like to get moving here. We got a lot of stuff to cover tonight. One other question from the OCAC, if I could, is give us the update on my favorite community choice aggravation.
Simon?
We suggested that you not sign the contract with the administrator because Kingston is looking at a more comprehensive CCA program. Kingston is in the process of issuing an RFP to administrators to administer that program. That RFP is not out yet. They had their Climate Smart Communities meeting last week, and the environmental group within the city said that the RFP was being worked on, wasn't out yet. So once that comes out, we'll have a sense for what that program looks like, compare that against the existing Joule and Good Energy programs, and decide if it's something that we as the OCAC would recommend to the town board that you look at and decide whether you prefer the more comprehensive program to the existing programs that are out there.
And what happened with Joule? We had Joule. We made a resolution for Joule. I was advised not to sign the contract. We hadn't even got a contract sent to us. Is there any update on Joule?
Well, Joule is actually upgrading their program. Marbletown, for example, is going ahead with a subset of the Joule campaign, which includes more distributed generation, distributed solar, or distributed hydro. So to me, that's a part of an upgrade. I know that's going to be included in the Kingston campaign and more. So Joule is making progress in the right directions. And I said all along that I don't think we would lose anything. If you want to go with the Joule campaign now, we could always switch to a more comprehensive campaign later. But given that Kingston's only probably a month or two away from issuing this RFP, my suggestion would be to hold off for at least until the end of the year and see what that comes out like. Unless you're getting some pressure from someone to move ahead.
No, we're losing you again. No pressure. I just, it's out there and it's sitting, and I feel like we're waiting for the next best thing, and the next best thing is constantly being developed by someone. So, I'm getting a little antsy, but we can wait, I guess. I don't know what the board thinks.
I think the issue with the Joule plan was that the energy supplier they selected has some customer service complaints and issues that we weren't necessarily comfortable recommending them.
Okay. All right. Anything else for OCAC?
Not for me. I'm good.
Well, thank you all for coming. I appreciate you, and I'm sorry again. I apologize for being late. That was a miscommunication.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I'll get that letter off to you, Matt.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate that. I'll keep you posted.
Thank you.
Thank you, one and all.
All right. Brian, you want to talk to us, Brian, about all the little things you want to buy there? What you got on your plate?
Yeah. Everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, no, this was, I brought up last month and discussed briefly through budget time and whatnot. But anyway, this piece of equipment with attachments, anybody that's not familiar, it's rubber tracked skid steer, small compact loader that's very versatile, has a tremendous amount of, I would say 100 plus attachments that could be outfitted to this machine and save us a lot of money, and it's yeah. I personally own one of these machines in my business, and they're fantastic. I think we're a little bit behind the times of owning one of these. I just wanted to say, last month I had a inclusive price on a planer milling head outfitted on this for doing our asphalt work. We did demo the machine. The machine is fantastic. The milling head, the guys had a lot of negative feedback on it. We have been around, which this is another part of it, the Bobcat quote that I have right now. Our contractors that we've worked with over the years, Callanan, Peckham Industries, they are outfitted with these Bobcat milling heads for doing asphalt planing, and very positive feedback. I reached out to Ulster County Highway. They recently purchased a new one, exact same model. Very good feedback from the operators, and I think this is just something that we should certainly have moving forward. There's a lot of small sections of asphalt that we could be milling out instead of putting I call it a potato chip to smooth it out, and we could put a true 1.5 inches, 2 inches, whatever it may be, and make it last for years and years to come. But this is something that I've been contracting a lot of our heavy paving out, and it's been large sections of road, and it's just a savings overall. But we're going to resort back to using our in-house paver again, that we do a lot of true and leveling courses, a lot of repairs, and I think cost effectively. And in other departments, like I brought up last month, we got repairs on the transfer station hill, on the cap there, in the parks. This machine can be used all over. And,
let me cut to the chase here. You
Yep.
wanted this, you brought this up the last meeting. You kind of pulled it at the last minute. You wanted to look into the milling machine, I guess, a little bit more.
Yes.
Are you ready to pull the trigger on this?
Yes.
And what's the price on the New Holland?
The price on the New Holland is $76,259.60.
Okay.
And the
That's
milling
not bad
head-
for that machine. I was saying.
No, it's not. And it's all a lot of money, but
Is that through Sourcewell?
that is through Sourcewell. And the
Okay.
Bobcat milling head planer, it's a 24-inch planer, as they call it. Everybody refers to it differently, but on the Bobcat quote, it is a 24-inch planer for the high flow machine, and that is $21,250.34. And I just want to reference this. I had quotes within weeks of each other, and now we just got hit with another logistics surcharge. And this is happening abroad with a lot of equipment shipping, and everybody knows where everything's at, sitting out in the boxes in the ocean and whatnot. Now everything is escalating, but right now I said I think is the time to pull the trigger on this, and it's going to serve us well for years and a lot of departments besides the highway.
So
Okay.
Can you get it by the end of the year?
The planer, I don't feel we can receive it by the end of the year, but the skid steer itself, yes.
Okay. So tomorrow we can make a motion for that, to approve that. If you can write that up, I think we have the invoices were put on the website,
Yeah.
so that we can refer to them.
And the 24-inch planer from Bobcat there, that is off a New York State contract as well.
Okay. All right.
When would you expect to get that
He said
planer?
it all varies right now, but anywhere from 30 to 90 days.
But you won't be using it over the winter anyway,
We
right?
will not be using the planer. There would be a
Well, I was
construction
thinking-
season in spring.
I was thinking more, you're trying to spend this year's budget money
Correct.
on something we're not going to receive till next year. So we need to put that money, I think there's a way of putting that money kind of like in, I don't remember what the right term is, like escrow from this year's budget into next year.
Right. If we have an invoice, I think
Yeah.
With an approved town board approval for purchase, yes.
Okay.
Okay, great. And then the next thing that you had was this is pretty straightforward, the Highway Department road inventory update. That's a pretty
Yes, and
straightforward thing, right?
Yeah, and I comb through that every year, and we made quite a few updates the last couple of years, and there was one that really stood out to me was the little spur of DeWitt Road that we paved this year, and that was never included in the highway inventory, which reflects in our chips overall for lane mileage. That's it adds to what we should see a little increase, and it's minuscule, but still it's something, you know.
Right.
So it's good to keep up on, and a lot of times we, as time goes on, either widen the road, and all these variables come into play, you know,
Okay.
with funding.
Was there anything else on your purchase list? That was it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else you need to address us with?
No.
Oh, you got off easy.
I don't know about easy, you know?
All right. Well, thank you, Brian. Any questions from the board?
Nope.
Sounds good.
Good. All right. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Moving on to tomorrow night. I realize that we have a position opening on the planning board on January 1st, and I would like to get that posted on the town website. We'll work on it this week or so. No rush, but we do want to get it posted at least by December 1st. But in next week or so would be great. We should do this for every opening we have in the board positions, is my feeling. Any comments or questions on it?
Which position is that? Who's
Planning board?
is that? Yeah.
Okay. This will be announced at the correspondence tomorrow, but the Crumville Cemetery. A little discussion on that. Oh, shoot, where's that? You saw the letter from Linda Werner about that. And bear with me, let me just dig this up. I'm not going to read the letter, but basically she's saying that they're getting low on funding, and that rather than look at the alternative, turning the cemetery over to the town, she was asking if the town would be willing at some point to do some maintenance. I talked to Marty Giuliano, who's done some maintenance for them, and the impression I get is that they're going to try to do some volunteers from the Boy Scouts to do some cleanup there, but they might have enough money to get through this through 2022. But they did want to put this on our radar. I don't think we have to act on it, but we should be looking at it. If they decide that they are not financially sustainable, they have the option to dissolve, in which case the town would have to take the entire cemetery over. And that means not only maintaining the cemetery, but also booking the plots, maintaining the plots, selling the plots, digging the graves, doing participating in the whole burial process. And I talked to Bill McKenna in Woodstock about it. They had to do that in theirs a few years ago. And he said it's an absolute ton of work for the town to take on. So he suggested avoiding it at all costs, but he said once they got it going, they made money on it. But then you're in the cemetery business. Yes, Dawn.
I'm now on the board of trustees, and I think
Sure.
that what they would like is just some assistance, maybe getting somebody to help with some of the mowing, so that's what's taken this time. It's the mowing all through the summer and the plowing of the road. There's some trees that need to be limbed back, a little bit of tree work or something, but the mowing is the main, and the weed whacking around everything. So it's just this, it's just, I think they were hoping maybe that they could get somebody to just run the mower through there once or, twice a month, a couple times, just to get some help to help cut back on the landscaping costs, because that's the major cost is the landscaping.
So when I spoke to Linda, she was looking at their budget and hold on a second. I got an email here from Judy Gerard. Let me just find it here. Of course, I can't find. Oh, there it is. And she was like, she was saying that a lot of it has to do with if they sell plots or not to pay for the maintenance. They do have some. They did send me their balances. Right now they have enough to get them through next year, is what they're saying. But I think that we should be prepared at some level to make a commitment to this cemetery. And I'm sure when we make a commitment to this cemetery, it's going to open up the door that others are going to want a commitment. So what happens, Dawn, with the mowing is like, maybe it's better for the town to even consider just a financial donation to each cemetery in the 2023 budget and offset the cost of whatever the charges are. Because twice a month mowing means an extra person on our crew.
Right. Probably a machine too.
Pardon me?
And probably a lawnmower too.
And the lawnmower and the time of the use of the lawnmower. Yeah. So I could see how this could add up, and I'd like a clearer picture. Like maybe 6 months down the road, they can turn to us and say, we're doing worse, we're doing better, or we figure that we can cover this much of maintenance and we need a little help.
Well, we are doing a cleanup thing in April and in the spring.
Yeah.
Because we only meet once a year right now. We are going to be meeting twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall. So it's something that we're discussing. We just wanted to put it out to the board to let you know that they are having financial, and that we will probably use up our budget if we get hire the landscaper for this year, because we definitely have. He's charging us just enough to cover, and we've got just enough to cover it.
That's what I see in the budget.
So yeah, and if we don't, like yourself, we don't sell any plots, then we have no more money to do anything.
So
you can't go out promoting people to die. So
the mowing and the landscaping, I assume that's contracted out to someone.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But it's 7 to 8 hours for the landscapers, and they got all their extra costs too. So I get that you don't want to send somebody out to mow it, and that the monetary value might be put in place, might be more beneficial to the town. But that's basically where the bulk of their stuff goes to, it seems. I'm fairly new to this, so I'm still learning myself. But that's at the last meeting, that seems to be their main concern, is maintaining it through the summer and stuff like that, and plowing it.
Yeah.
So my concern is that, like, if we commit to manpower and machinery, that that this cemetery wants two times a month, then the next cemetery wants 2 times a month, and suddenly we've got a full-time position that we're doing the cemetery.
I get it. Yeah.
But I on that hand, I am saying that I think the town board should consider a monetary commitment when necessary.
Yeah.
Scott, you had your hand up there.
Having trouble hearing you, Scott.
Scott, you must be at Simon's house.
Yeah, you look frozen there.
Yeah, is the association addressing the fee structure going forward? Hello.
Yeah, I heard that, Scott. Dawn, the question, did you hear that? Was whether the association's looking at changing their fee structure.
Association addressing the fee structure going forward?
You got me on that. I mean, like I said, I've only attended one. This is only my second meeting that I attended back in October. But it's something we can talk about in April. I mean, I think that they just wanted to make you aware and see in hopes that something would maybe help them. But like I said, they do have enough to do it this year. They didn't discuss a fee schedule change. And I don't know how long it's been since a fee schedule change, so. It's
Dawn, it
something
could be,
we can bring up in April.
it could be something that we could do like with a little creative thinking, like we don't do the mowing, but we'll do tree trimming and plowing, or, something that we can break up the commitment so that it's not like a full-time summer thing for us, that.
Yeah, I mean, the
That's
tree
the
trimming
core.
is nothing, just to trim a little bit along the roadway, and that's nothing.
Right, but if that's
So-
if that's adding to your cost of that annual cost for that person to maintain it.
No, that's something that needs to be done. We just got some item 4 to fill potholes and stuff like that. Jack brought that over for them the other day and dumped it out. And but it's more, I think the landscaping seems to be the most issue, and keeping it open through the winter too. I'm not sure how much that costs, but the landscaping seems to be the big cost, because Marty was doing it, but he had some issues and he couldn't continue to do it. So.
All right. Well, it's on our radar, and we're willing to work with you to some degree and see what we can do.
Yeah.
Would the board agree with that? I mean, I don't want to. We don't have to take a vote or a motion. I'm just trying to get a consensus of feeling here.
I agree. I think we should try to do whatever we can to help to avoid us being put in a position of having to take it over and not knowing how to handle that. Plus
Are we allowed to do direct monetary municipal money to a private entity like that?
My impression is yes, but I had to get some clarity on that. I know we can go in there and do the work. Also in the thing that Judy Gerard sent me, there was a maintenance fund that had some money in it. And I'm not sure what that's for, Dawn, if that's something that you can tap into.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if that's for landscaping or supporting if any, plots have sunk down or anything like that. That might be for that. Might be maintenance on the plots themselves. Like I said, I'm new to this, so I'm learning as I go.
So yeah, that would be one question, because there's it says permanent maintenance fund is over $16,000.
Right.
Perpetual care funds, I don't know what these things mean. So it would be interesting to get a little more clarity on how much of a commitment.
Yeah, I was hoping Linda would come on to the meeting tonight, because she's much more, knowledgeable about the whole cemetery. So, but I sent her an email saying you were going to discuss it tonight, but I guess she couldn't get on. So.
No, and she kind of led me to believe it's not like a panic situation.
No, it's not. It's not.
Coming down the pipe.
We do have it. We're trying to maintain it on our own, but just making you aware, and whatever you can do, would help.
Okay. I'm going to move on if there's no other comments.
I have one question. How many cemeteries are there in the town?
There are 4, 5 actually. There's one small one that's located on Marty Giuliano's land, and he pretty much maintains that. And but I believe that there are 4 main cemeteries. Now I know that the one in Shokan is very close, probably. I'm not sure how it is fiscally, how much money it has, but that one's run by Mr. Hohenschmidt and Mr. Kasarik, and they've been looking for a trust. They're the only board members left, and they are done. They're ready to be done. So I would not be surprised if that one didn't come back, and I don't know who's maintaining that one. And then the other one is John Ingram takes care of at Tongor Cemetery. So he maintains that one. But I know the one in Shokan on Mountain Road there is Mr. Kasarik, and Mr. H moved out of town, and Mr. Kasarik, he's done. They tried to get me on that board, and I said one cemetery at a time. So.
One thing I recommended in the documents that were sent over was trying to encourage mergers. I don't know how much of a
Yes, I did.
scale.
I did look at that stuff
that
that
would help
Scott
with?
had posted. I looked at that stuff that Scott posted. I don't know how easy it would be to. We're having a hard enough time doing ours. To me, to merge with Showcam would be.
If you're,
You know?
well, I guess your problem is as much the shortage of trustees. That's their problem. But maybe if they have a little more money, but they're short of trustees,
Yeah,
you
we
merge and
got-
you sort of get that
Yeah, we
fixed.
got trustees that really don't. They want out too, and that's why they're trying to get in fresh blood. That's why Mr. H and Mr. Pasaric were trying to get fresh people in there, but I said, you're gonna have to wait till I retire or something. I said because I don't want to take on another project. So, but that. I don't see that happening, but that cemetery is probably getting close to being in this situation too.
Okay. Anything else, guys, on that?
Nope.
Cemeteries, people are dying to get in and people on the board are dying to get out. So what are you gonna do?
Next one.
I'm gonna try to keep this really quick and easy. I got wrangled into a meeting a few weeks ago with the owners of Maverick West. And all the time we've been talking about the Maverick West buyout in Boyceville. I've never been able to get them all in the same room. And they all met with us online with Dave Tobias from New York City DEP. And it was a very interesting meeting. Let me just give you the layout that the three partners who created Maverick West initially owned the medical practice, and the medical practice is identified in the Olive LFA in Boyceville as being an anchor business. They no longer own the business. It's owned by New Vance Health Providers. And the owners want to sell to New York City DEP. And we passed a resolution, I believe in March of this year, maybe I'm wrong, but we passed a resolution that said that they could participate in the New York City funded flood buyout.
Mm-hmm.
The problem we present now, and when they asked us to do that, they were all about committing to try to find a relocation in the town. Now that they don't own that and they have made inquiries to New Vance about relocating into town, they've gotten nowhere with that. And I've made, last week, I made an inquiry to New Vance. I haven't heard anything back. It's in our interest to keep a medical facility in our town. There's other businesses associated with it in that complex. There's a physical therapy business.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lab, the pharmacy across the street, So, unfortunately, Mr. Tobias at the meeting was kind of asking me to make a commitment on whether they should move forward with an appraisal. Now, the appraisal is in the perspective of some of the owners might give them leverage to have New Vance wake up and say, wow, they're really doing this and they're leaving, and might give them some impetus to look into relocating in the area. One of the partners is interested in finding other investors and creating a medical facility in the area. That's the one partner who still works with New Vance. So it's a little bit complicated. I am looking into seeing in the language from CWC, from the Flood Hazard Mitigation Implementation Program, I've always been told when Aaron Bennett was our flood coordinator, and of course I know all the people at CWC, I've always been told that rental businesses are not eligible for any kind of relocation funding. However, I've been looking into the documentation of DEP from 2015 when the New York City buyout program was initiated. And I've been looking at some of the flood hazard mitigation program rules with CWC. I believe there's a case to be made that there is money available to relocation for anchor businesses. So I just wanted to give you an update on this, that they are pressing me to get the board. I told them I'd talk to the board for you guys to say, yeah, let them sell and get the appraisal. And I'm kind of hesitant until I get a little bit more clarity on whether relocation money is available to the leasee. That's where we're at. I don't want to make it. I'm suggesting we don't take any action until next month and let me get a little more information about it, a little more clarity, and see if Nuvance touches base with us. I went so far as to even point someone, one of the people that was interested in relocating to, a piece of real estate I knew about that's not on the market yet for relocation. And that didn't work out for them for whatever reason. So, you start getting into the middle of being a real estate agent in this. I don't want to be in that position, but I do think it's worth us making our best effort and doing our due diligence to try to maintain a medical facility in the town of Olive. That's where I'm at. I don't know, push come to shove, whether we want to deny them to sell the building or, the property or not. I think we've made that commitment to them already. So I don't think it's proper to go back on our word, but we are in a position where we might be able to, insert a little leverage into the talks. Any comments or questions?
I'd like to do whatever we can to keep them local,
Yeah.
whatever conditions we can put on it or anything like that to have that consideration, I think is definitely in order.
This one's messy because we do have the power to say, yeah, you can sell, but you've got to relocate in the town. But when you've got the owners don't own the business anymore, that makes it a little bit more difficult because I'm pretty sure the town of Olive will have zero power against Nuvance to relocate.
Right. I mean, the only thing we can have, it's not about power with Nuvance, in my opinion. It's about, can we offer them funding for relocation, a certain amount of funding, and that tied with investors, it might be something that in a longer term could help them.
But in Nuvance's condition now, I mean, with the owner of the property is also the owner of the business, whatever money they get for the buyout, they can then put into their relocation, and CWC buys the property for them. But in this case, the owners are going to take their money and run.
So, we have a very
for buyout.
So, you could parallel this with the property the firehouse property in Boyceville. Okay. We are the owners of that land, and the fire department is a leasee, and they own the building. They own the brick and mortar. That I looked into the deed of that and into the agreement with the covenant put on the property for that. They're getting funding to brick and mortar buyout because it's their, well, that's a whole different issue. But my point being is they're getting money to relocate and rebuild. And I don't see much difference in this situation.
Right.
Although they're a critical facility, this is an anchor business. But if you deep dive into these documents, you'll see that the language favors the property owners, but is not completely distinctive of it. It doesn't always say property. It says anchor businesses qualify for relocation. So I'm going to make the case before the CWC. I've been bending their ear a little bit about it, and I'm going to see if I can at least have that so we maybe can instill some kind of incentive for them to relocate. All right. Moving on, while we're in Boyceville, let's go across the street to the firehouse. We received an appraisal from New York City DEP on that property. And again, that's a funny process because we're the property owner, and they did the appraisal and they haven't sent it to us. They sent the appraisal also to the Olive Fire Department. It was not an appraisal. It was a letter with a figure on it. The figure was $175,000. I have not seen the appraisal. The appraisal number seems low. And when I questioned about that, fortunately, I was speaking to Aaron Bennett, And he said the reason he saw the appraisal and the breakdown, I don't want to say numbers, but it's roughly 55, 95, 55 property, 95 building. The reason is because that land has that deed restriction on it that only a firehouse can be built on it. So when you do a comp for it, you're not doing a comp compared to just other properties with buildings on them. You're doing a comp with a deed restriction for that. That's their perspective on this. That's a little questionable, whether we want to get into it with them or not. I don't know, but it's something out there, and I haven't looked at legal on it. I'm actually waiting for Dave Tobias to get back from vacation so that I can get the appraisal, get some clarity on their perspective. He had some language in the letter that I wasn't too happy about, and I'm going to be talking to him about it, claiming that the town cannot veto land acquisition like this. And that's, in my opinion, that's patently false. So we'll see how that evolves. DEP, has got staffing issues. A lot of people retired. So we're kind of seeing how this unfolds before us. The original deed talks about the Olive Fire Department. It's the only thing that can be built on that property. But the agreement with the Olive Fire Department is to reimburse if the relationship ends between Town of Olive, and the Olive Fire Department. And I talked to our legal counsel, Dan Hepner, and he thinks that and I agree with him, the spirit of the agreement for that relationship would include reimbursing the Olive Fire Department for the building part of the appraisal. Just want to get that out there. So I don't think anybody's going to argue about that. Any questions?
No.
It's another thorny one. Okay. I did want to mention this. I don't have the email with me, but I understand there might be a settlement in the Sailor Mill development. And there might be, I believe, maybe some of the neighbors may have, the developers may have agreed to sell 28 plus acres of the property to the neighbors to reduce the number of home sites.
Janelle sent the settlement to me, and it's in the file in the vault.
Is that an official settlement?
Yeah, it's a little legal document. Yep.
Okay.
It's like 35 pages long.
Did they take somebody to court on it?
I'm not sure, but it says settlement on Salem Mill Road. So I haven't actually read it. So I just
my understanding of the process.
Janelle sent me the settlement, and I filed it in the file.
Okay.
My understanding of the process, from what I observed, which was just seeing these things go by my desk, was that the someone in the neighborhood was going to file an Article 78, and they had you can file it, and you have a certain amount of time to take an action on it, and they used that as leverage to make this deal go through. And I guess the Article 78 was withdrawn.
So it's a deal between the neighbors and the property owner, and the planning board's not involved at all?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
At this point. Scott, do you know anything? Anybody else want to share anything?
The actual Article 78 was not filed with us, so they just must have threatened it because they never actually filed this article.
Okay.
Somebody told me they saw the ad in the paper with an article filed.
Okay, yeah, because nothing got filed with me.
Right, I don't think it got to you. I think there's
file it with me.
I think there's a time frame that they have to.
They have 30 days
it.
from 30 days from the date that the decision was made. So that was probably on the seeker.
Okay. Any other comments? Great.
So what I know was the neighborhood.
Rose again, Scott. I want to turn off your video. It might help.
Yeah, Scott, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So the neighborhood Association bought the 20 acres. So there will now be 7 houses built instead of 14 or 13. They're on a planning board schedule to change the amount of or amount of lots, and then the following month they're supposed to approve and vote it. But property was sold under signed contracts, and I think everybody is happy.
Is the neighborhood association putting in a conservation easement on that property, or just holding it?
I think we lost you again, Scott.
Yeah, from what I was told, that property will be forever wild.
Okay.
Scott, one other question. Does that mean the neighborhood association will not be objecting to what's
Forever
comes before the
wild
planning
on the
board?
balance of the property.
Say again?
We're not getting you, Scott. We're losing you.
Yeah, it's a strong delay too.
That's the plan.
Okay.
All we
That's
heard was
correct.
that's the plan. Hey, Scott, if you have your video on, you may want to consider turning it off to open up your bandwidth a little. And just turn the video aspect of your thing off.
Neighborhood is fine with the plan.
Okay.
All right, good.
All right. I did talk to, unless there's anything else on that. I did talk to the Woodstock Land
Probably
Conservancy.
Tina's fault.
I'm sorry, what's that? Oh, this is tough.
I think he's on like a 10-second delay, so.
Scott, you may want to lose your video to save your bandwidth if you can. I'm going to move on. The Woodstock Lands Conservancy asked the town of Olive for a letter of support for the designation of the Ashokan Rail Trail as a national recreation trail. There is no obligation to the town. There is no strings tied to it. It is just a national recognition that may help in future funding efforts for if they need to go out for grants for the trail. I spoke to you guys before I signed that letter, and you all were individually expressed to me that you were okay with it. So just wanted to let you know that letter went out. The Route 28A bridge, the work is started. The company that's doing the work is called Echo, and they will be starting to take down trees in the area of the Boyceville Bridge trailhead. They will be displacing a few of the parking spaces on the trailhead while they do this work, but they expect the trailhead to remain open. It'll include the replacement. The project includes the replacement of the Five Orchards Bridge, replacement of the small bridge that carries Route 28A over the railroad corridor, reconfiguring the intersection of Route 28 and 28A to be a more traditional T intersection, and rebuilding this westernmost stretch of Route 28 to include the removal of the famous S-curve that is seen in the red circle of the diagram that I'm not showing you, and upgrading the Boyceville Bridge trailhead at the end of the work. If you remember in our earlier conversations, that will entail the trailhead coming into the parking lot and extending over the bridge into Boyceville. And DOT has said they will put an impervious surface walkway up 28 to close to the high school, which will also bring it to our land where the FEMA buyout is from the Trail Motel, and then to the Stuckey. I did want to give you an update on Stuckey. Stuckey, I believe, went to contract for sale last week. I haven't gotten the papers. I did sign the papers, but I haven't seen the actual closing documents yet. So that's being worked on. So we should be acquiring that property very soon.
Jim, I got a quick question on that that's not clear to me. I had the impression that the access to the trailhead in Boyceville will stay open during this construction, but the actual road that they're going to build will cross over that access. Have you seen anybody comment about how that's going to work?
No, I mean, but they've been very proactive in trying to keep the trailhead open. I asked the same questions, and they seem to have a plan.
Okay.
I don't know how they're going to do it, but maybe there's not going to be as much trucks on that side of the stream in and out, because they'll have the other side of the stream to work on as well. Last I heard, they were looking at where to stage and put their offices, and I haven't heard what the answer to that was. They were going to put them by the firehouse, and DEP didn't think it was good optics to put a 2-year project in trailers, offices in a 100-year floodplain that people are selling to New York City for buyouts.
Okay.
I told them about the old Singer Denman space is available, but I think that might be across too much traffic for them. And I told them about our properties in that area. If they want to use them, they weren't interested in being on the other side of 28. So we'll see where they end up. All right. Our energy service company that provides our electricity for our electric bill with Central Hudson is running out at the end of the month, and I am working on a renewal for 100% renewable for a 12 to 24 month agreement. I've got a couple of requests for proposals, informal, requests for quotes to 2 or 3 different companies. And we very well likely may stay with the one we have because they offered a very competitive quote. But I'll let you know when I do that. I will ask tomorrow for a motion to enter a new contract with our ESCO.
If we can keep that to 12 month, that would be good, just because I think the environment's going to be a little different in 12 months.
Yeah, the prices are going up. The prices are high now. I'll also I put on the agenda for tomorrow that I'm going to ask for your authorization to sign the contract for the first aid and for the fire department. That's pretty much what we discussed in the budget process.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent you all those updated fee schedules I was working on, and I'm kind of at a place where I feel like we've kind of reached a plateau. And as things evolve, we may have to look at it again during the year. But I would love to put that out at the December meeting and approve it to be effective on January 1st. So at least people have a month of it being published. Did anybody have any comments on the fees?
I'm good
You okay with them?
No,
No comments
nope.
or no fees?
Seems like there's a lot more categories, but it all looked pretty good.
Yeah, I bet the biggest one was we increased our building permits from up from like, I don't know, where the heck's the other one? They were at 30 cents. I think we're up to 40 or 45 per square foot. Actually, I'm sorry. The building permits were at 30 cents a square foot. We're up to 50, and for commercial, we're up to 55. And I've compared these to other towns, and we're right in line with them. And then we've added a few things. What adds a little bit of complexity to this is the new building codes that came out last year have lots and lots of things that they like inspected. So as Dominic is wading through that and looking at that stuff, he's going to be making suggestions on how to maybe tweak this a little as we go along. And I did want to give you an update that I met with Simon Gruber and Brian last week, and we walked around the office complex for him to get an eyeballs on the, we hired Simon Gruber as a consultant for the ARPA funding as it relates to the Clean Water Act and our proximity to the reservoir and what funding might be available for projects in that scope. And so he looked at the parking lot at the town office that'll need paving in the spring. We talked about the stormwater runoff there. We looked at the salt shed, and we looked at the metal building in the back for the highway department. And he wants to see, he wants to look into that language in those clean water acts that the ARPA money is tied to. In other words, if it qualifies for the Clean Water Act stuff, it'll qualify for the ARPA money. And Simon's pretty well versed in that stuff, and he's looking at it. And in fact, he's looking even into examples where that program that is funded in New York State with that, with those Clean Water Acts will, I think it's called the Environmental Revolving Fund or something like that, that you can get loans out of and things to do environmental issues. He's looking at that to see if they've funded salt sheds before. And if they do, then that pretty much means it must qualify because it met the criteria to funding. So he's looking at stuff like that, and he will be letting us know in a few weeks what he finds and kind of giving us on those three projects at least an idea on prioritizing based on what the qualifications would be, so we can feel more comfortable going into a project or not using the ARPA money. Also, hey, Drew, I wanted to throw this at you. Short-term rentals, we've solicited a fair amount of comments after the public hearing and before the public hearing. And the zoning committee was forwarded all those comments. And we wanted to just kind of clarify the process moving forward. You and I discussed this a little bit. You want to weigh in on that, please?
Well, I'll tell you what I think we should do, assuming the board agrees or if they have any input. Most of the comments boil down to 3 or 4 issues that were with the code that we can kind of fix pretty easily. Or I'll say there are some areas that we need to discuss. But what I was thinking about is one of 2 things. Either make a list of the changes that the committee thinks we ought to do based on the public comments, or we could redo the local law and let the town board look at it probably early next year to see if that's more in line with what they want to do. I'm not sure which way the town board would prefer to go. Probably, to me, the easiest thing would be for the committee to come up with a list of here's our suggested changes to the local law. And if the town board agrees, we go ahead and make those changes and then start the process all over again. I think the changes will be, I won't say significant, but significant enough that we definitely have to go through the county planning board and the public hearing process again. And does that make sense to you guys as far as a direction to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of figured that's where we were going with it.
All right.
Yeah. So the committee will look at all of the material that we've gathered, all the correspondence and comments. We'll look, they can have access to the public hearing and the comments people made there. Dawn, do we have minutes of that public hearing? They can get the minutes of the public hearing forwarded to them.
You guys will be approving them tomorrow night.
Right.
You tabled the approval of them, so they're not on the website yet, but once you approve them, then they'll go on the website.
Okay. And then the committee can look at that and kind of aggregate all of the issues into a few, if they feel that's the easiest way to go, and then make recommendations to us, and we'll let them move forward, or we'll rewrite or whatever at that
Okay.
point.
All right. The committee started discussing that at our October meeting, and we'll try to continue that discussion. We have a meeting
Next week.
next week, next Thursday.
Drew, if you want, I can send the draft. I can mark it as a draft and send it to you to share with the board the minutes. But it would be once I get approval tomorrow night, it won't matter.
Yeah, just
And then the minutes
just
can be shared.
wait till
with-
approval. Wait for the approval and then send it to me.
All right.
I've got a copy of it, but I don't want to. I didn't want to. I think they might have even seen the copy I've got and told them it was
Okay.
draft. But let's get the official one and I'll send it off to them.
Okay.
The one thing I would like to get input from the board members, though, one of the main issues people brought up, and a lot of people brought it up, was the restriction we had in there on the number of days or number of weekends they could rent. And my suggestion to the committee was we could just eliminate those two restrictions, but the committee was definitely split on
Yes.
that being too much of a move and trying to come up with something in between. So that's going to be an area where the town board needs to decide whether they want to do it. I made the argument that there really isn't a huge benefit to the town for restricting those days and weekends. It's also a policing problem of how would you even know that they're doing that? But there
was a mechanism for finding that out from the county.
Yeah,
Diana sent us some information about it.
Yeah, she did. That's true. Anyway, those are the issues there. One of the issues that's not decided at this point. So we'll come back to this with some recommendations.
Yeah. So what I would suggest is they come back with the recommendations. We look at that list of, look at what we've gotten in correspondence, take a special look at those days and whether we want restrictions or not, and move forward from there.
Okay.
We have to do a little homework. We all have to do a little homework on this.
Right. I mean, when you start looking at a lot of the comments, a lot of people had comments about the overall idea of STRs versus not. Very few people really took issue with most of the document. There's 4 or 5 main issues. So, all right, we'll do that.
Okay. All right. I did want to give you an update on, I don't know if you remember last year, I filed for FEMA reimbursement money for COVID. And we did not meet the minimum threshold because they were disqualifying things left and right. I've kind of watched this thing move forward and slowly expand. And I reached out to them last week. And now it seems like almost everything that was excluded initially is now included. And they've moved the window of time for reimbursement back. So I have my staff looking at all our expenses since the beginning of the COVID pandemic and trying to make a list of things that we believe are the easy list of things that qualify. All the expendables like face masks and gloves and hand sanitizers, and then our atomizer sprayers and disinfectants, and that kind of stuff. The plexiglass now qualifies. That didn't qualify. So we will be over the minimum threshold. And I think we have a good chance of recouping a lot of that money. So we are working on that. Okay. Let me just see here. I believe that is everything.
I have one thing.
Go ahead, Dawn.
I sent everybody, Heidi sent me some paperwork and I sent that all off to everybody. I need to give her a response on what you want to do with this. She self-certified some classwork she did. That's
Right.
the question. The other stuff that she has certificates for is fine, but she did her own self-certification, and I need your guys' guidance on what you want me to do. Give it to her or not give it to her?
I'm fine with giving it to her. That's exactly what the county planning board does with training online is sometimes you don't get a cert, and as long as you say you did it, they accept that. So I would take her word for it.
Yeah, we've been pretty liberal with the hours for training, giving their volunteers and working their butts off anyway.
Yeah.
So
I have no problem with it either.
No,
Um,
we need to.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't think
You know-
I need a motion. I'll just, if everybody's in agreement, then I'll just tell her she's got the
Yeah,
hours.
I'm glad you brought that up. I knew there was something in the back of my mind that I hadn't done. Yeah, definitely for that. I also saw that there was a reimbursement for Tim Peck on the planning board. I don't know if he has hours as well.
Yes, he did. He's taken that class. It hasn't come up yet. It comes up on, I think, on the 13th. Sandy Friedel will also be doing it, taking that class. That's why I asked you about the reimbursement before she signed up for the class. I wanted to make sure she was reimbursed.
Right.
And is on the ZBA, Brian is on there, the new guy. I don't know if he's getting notifications of the classes being available.
I send everything to Janelle, and it's up to Janelle to get it out to her board members.
Okay.
So if any class that AOT training, that went right to Janelle, and then Janelle shared it with her board members.
Great. Beautiful.
Instead of me trying to get it to each of the board members, I just send it to her and she shares them with
Right.
both boards.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay.
Yep. On that, anything else?
Not from me.
All right, I am going to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular individual. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Dawn, we're going to ask you to step out of this. You can get that. I'll try to remember who made the motion to come back in, Dawn, and close the meeting, all right?
Okay, I'm gonna put people back in the waiting room until we're done, and then
I
I'll
will
put
be
you all
right back.
back.
Okay, this is for town board members only.
I just gotta get Brian out, and we're ready.
Bye, Brian. What'd you do with Vicky?
She ran
She
away.
had to step away for a minute.
He said step away.
All right, of course, I don't, of course, we're
Okay.
back.
Who made the motion to leave?
I made the motion to leave.
I seconded.
And that was about a minute ago, right?
9:10.
9:10.
9:10 PM, Dawn, I wrote it
We
down.
did it all.
Okay.
All right. Now we're back in our regular workshop meeting, and I have nothing else for this agenda, but anybody else on the board want to speak?
Just a quick question: the visioning project that Cynthia and the firm is leading. Have we got any updates from them?
Yes, they've done a couple of workshop sessions with the high school students. They had a presentation by April Beaslau from Marist College, who has done a lot of research on the town of Olive and the history and the watershed. I attended the first session. They had Native Americans there to, kind of open up the project. It was really nice. And I am going with them on November 19th. We're traveling up to, and this is part of the Nature Conservancy's grant that they did for Glory Madison to integrate that visioning grant into the big grant that the Nature Conservancy gave to Sydney, New York. So they've invited us to go there and see the work that Sydney's doing and how they're progressing so that we can kind of learn from each other. Now, they have 100 buyouts in their town.
Wow.
We have a handful compared to them. And so it'll be interesting to see that. On a side note, I've been in touch with the Nature Conservancy about different aspects of the flood buyouts, and they are very, very interested in working in our town. I don't know what it'll yield, whether they acquire some stream side I don't know. I don't want to say anything because I don't know where they're going with it. But they're interested in looking at us, talking to us, and coming up with ways to fix problems in the buyout program that make it difficult for people to either do the buyout or make it difficult for people that are affected by the buyout that don't have any say in it. For instance, the tenants at the Landmark or or Nuvance, the medical facility, and the pharmacy, who are anchor businesses but don't own the properties. So I've been talking to them about the holes in these programs and how these, very complicated programs get developed by people in negotiating with the DEP and the Coalition of Watershed Towns and the CWC to implement the program, and the filtration avoidance determination, and all of these different things with EPA and DEP and DEC and all of these organizations, and they come up with these rules. And then, of course, there's always holes in the rules. And even the nice sort of climate smart thing where where Sylvia tried to get the funding for the firehouse, and it was clear that they should fund something like that, but a little technical glitch made them unable to do that. And it's extremely frustrating. So what they're looking at is, what are these problems and how can we resolve them and get down to the micro level of the towns and where they're having issues with this that can help ease along that process and rebuild those communities. So they're not just sitting there vacant land, but where do we go with them once we do it? And how do those people affected by it move on? So it's interesting. I don't know how it'll work out, but I've been talking to them on occasion, and they just keep coming back. They really love the input we're giving them. So hopefully, they could be somebody who, if doesn't fund something for us in the future, they could be an organization that advocates for us for funding if we decide to do something on some of these buyout properties. So I think it's great. It's a great project. It's a great nonprofit to have on our side and advocate for us.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yep. Good.
Did I answer the question? I don't remember.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely did. And then some.
All right. Anything else?
No.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I will. I make a motion. that we
I'll
adjourn.
second. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate
See
it.
you
Thanks.
tomorrow night.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow
And
night.
Tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow morning.
And I'll see you at lunch.
Oh, yeah. Don't forget the sound of vouchers.
Yeah.
Bye now.
Bye.